first graders. It's Mrs. Garcia again, and I have another awesome story for you today. How many of you have a name that's a little bit different? Maybe kind of hard to pronounce. Do any of you have a longer name that sometimes people don't really know how to pronounce it, or it's just different? And sometimes you're like, I know it's kind of different, but yet it's kind of cool. Well, I actually have a different first name too, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. And when I was little, I used to be like, oh, it's kind of a different name. Mom and Dad, why'd you give me that name? But now, I'll tell you what, as I grew up, I love my name because it's unique and it's different. Unique means just very different. But all names are beautiful. It's just that some are a little bit different than others. And I'm going to read you a story about a little mouse, and her name is very different from all the other kids in her class. And her name is Chrysanthemum. Now, chrysanthemum is a type of flower, just like if you were named Rose or Lily or Violet. Those are names of flowers. Well, this little girl's name is Chrysanthemum, and this book is by Kevin Henkes, and I love all of Kevin Henkes' books. And anyway, Chrysanthemum loves her name. She thinks it's a beautiful name, and her parents love her name. But when she gets to school, the kids kind of start making fun of her name because it's so long. So let's find out what happens at school and how Chrysanthemum handles that, okay? We're going to find out. The day she was born was the happiest day in her parents' lives. She is perfect, said her mother. Absolutely, said her father. And she was. She was absolutely perfect. Her name must be everything that she is, said her mother. Her name must be absolutely perfect, said her father. And it was. Chrysanthemum. Her parents named her Chrysanthemum. Beautiful name. Chrysanthemum grew and grew and grew. And when she was old enough to appreciate it, Chrysanthemum loved her name. She loved the way it sounded when her mother woke her up, and she loved the way it sounded when her father called her for dinner. And she loved the way it sounded when she whispered it to herself in the bathroom mirror. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum loved the way her name looked when it was written with ink on an envelope. She loved the way it looked when it was written with icing on her birthday cake. And she loved the way it looked when she wrote it herself with her fat orange crayon. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum thought her name was absolutely perfect. And then she started school. On her first day, Chrysanthemum wore her sunniest dress and her brightest smile, and she ran all the way to school. Hooray, said Chrysanthemum, school! But when Mrs. Chud took roll call, everyone giggled upon hearing Chrysanthemum's name. So here's Mrs. Chud, and you got Don and Eve and Lois and Al and Les and Kay and Max. You got Sue and Bill and Pat, Tom, and there's Sam. This looks like Ken and Joe. And who's this? Rita and Victoria. And then you have Chrysanthemum. It's so long, said Joe. It scarcely fits on your name tag, said Rita, pointing. I'm named after my grandmother, said Victoria. You're named after a flower. Chrysanthemum wilted, which means just like a flower wilts and droops, so did Chrysanthemum. Her shoulders just drooped. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. In fact, she thought it was absolutely dreadful. That was very mean of those other students to make fun of her. That was not nice. The rest of the day was not much better. During nap time, Victoria raised her hand and informed Mrs. Chud that Chrysanthemum's name was spelled with 13 letters. That's exactly half as many letters as there are in the entire alphabet, Victoria explained. Thank you for sharing that with us, Victoria, said Mrs. Chud. Now put your head down. If I had a name like yours, said Victoria, I'd change it, as the students lined up to go home. I wish I could, thought Chrysanthemum miserably. Welcome home, said her mother. Welcome home, said her father. School is no place for me, said Chrysanthemum. My name is too long, and it scarcely fits on my name tag, and I'm named after a flower. Oh, pish, said her mother. Your name is beautiful, and precious, and priceless, and fascinating, and winsome, said her father. It's everything you are, said her mother. Absolutely perfect. Chrysanthemum felt much better after her favorite dinner, macaroni and cheese with ketchup, and an evening filled with hugs and kisses and parcheesi, which is a game. That night, Chrysanthemum dreamed that her name was Jane. It was an extremely pleasant dream. The next morning, Chrysanthemum wore her most comfortable jumper. She walked to school as slowly as she could. She dragged her feet in the dirt. Chrysanthemum, 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 she wrote. She even looks like a flower, said Victoria, as Chrysanthemum entered the playground. Let's pick her, said Rita, pointing. Ooh, let's smell her, said Joe. Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. Again, they're still making fun of her. Not nice. The rest of the day was not much better. During nap time, Victoria raised her hand and said, a chrysanthemum is a flower. It lives in a garden with worms and other dirty things. Thank you for sharing that with us, Victoria, said Mrs. Chud. Now put your head down. I just cannot believe your name, Victoria said as the students lined up to go home. Neither can I, thought Chrysanthemum miserably. Welcome home, said her mother. Welcome home, said her father. School is no place for me, said Chrysanthemum. They said I even look like a flower. They pretended to pick me and smell me. Oh, pish, said her mother. They're just jealous and envious and begrudging and discontented and jaundiced, said her father. Who wouldn't be jealous of a name like yours, said her mother. After all, it's absolutely perfect, said her dad. Chrysanthemum felt a trifle better after her favorite dessert, chocolate cake with buttercream frosting, and another evening filled with hugs and kisses and parcheesi. That night, Chrysanthemum dreamed that she really was a chrysanthemum. She sprouted leaves and petals, and Victoria picked her and plucked her leaves and petals one by one, and there was nothing left but a scrawny stem. It was the worst nightmare of Chrysanthemum's life. Chrysanthemum wore her outfit with 7 pockets the next morning. She loaded the pockets with her most prized possessions and her good luck charms. Chrysanthemum took the longest route possible to school. She stopped and stared at each and every flower. Chrysanthemum, 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 the flowers seemed to say. That morning, the students were introduced to Mrs. Twinkle, the music teacher. Her voice was like something out of a dream, as was everything else about her. The students were speechless. They thought Mrs. Twinkle was an indescribable wonder. They went out of their way to make a very nice impression. Looks like Mrs. Twinkle's got a baby in her belly, too. See? They just loved her. Mrs. Twinkle led the students in scales. Then she assigned roles for the class musical. Victoria was chosen as the dainty fairy queen. So she was the queen, and Rita was chosen as the spiffy butterfly princess. And Joe was chosen as the all-important pixie messenger. And Chrysanthemum, she was chosen as the daisy. Chrysanthemum's a daisy. Chrysanthemum's a daisy, Joe, Rita, and Victoria chanted, thinking it was wildly funny. Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. So they're laughing at her because a daisy is a type of flower, and that's the part she got in the play. "What's so humorous?" asked Mrs. Twinkle. "Chrysanthemum," was the answer. "Her name is so long," said Joe. "It scarcely fits on her name tag," said Rita, pointing. "I'm named after my grandmother," said Victoria. "She's named after a flower." "My name is long," said Mrs. Twinkle. "It is?" said Joe. "My name would scarcely fit on a name tag," said Mrs. Twinkle. "It would?" said Rita, pointing. "And," said Mrs. Twinkle, "I'm named after a flower, too." "You are?" said Victoria. "Yes," said Mrs. Twinkle. "My name is Delphinium, which is another type of flower. Delphinium Twinkle. And if my baby is a girl, I'm considering Chrysanthemum as a name. I think it's absolutely perfect." Wow, this was news for all those girls. Now they feel differently. Chrysanthemum could scarcely believe her ears. She blushed. She beamed. She bloomed. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. So the music teacher that everybody loves is named after a flower with a very long name, just like little chrysanthemum. How wonderful is that? Joe, Rita, and Victoria looked at Chrysanthemum longingly. That means they want to be like her now. "Call me Marigold," said Joe. "I'm Carnation," said Rita, pointing. "My name is Lily of the Valley," said Victoria. So now they all want flower names just like Chrysanthemum because they're jealous now. Chrysanthemum did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She knew it. So now she's a whole different girl because she knows that she loves her name and it is a perfect name and it's special. So overall, the class musical was a huge success. Chrysanthemum was absolutely perfect as a daisy. Victoria made the only mistake. She completely forgot her lines as the dainty fairy queen. Chrysanthemum thought it was wildly funny, and she giggled throughout the entire dance of the flowers. Eventually, Mrs. Twinkle gave birth to a healthy baby girl, and of course, she named her Chrysanthemum. So Mrs. Twinkle did have a baby girl, and she named her Chrysanthemum, just like Chrysanthemum in the book. What a wonderful story! And that story is all about, again, celebrating yourself because everybody's special and everybody's names are all special. And sometimes people have short names and sometimes people have long names. And they're all beautiful and special because they were all given to you as a baby by someone that loved you very much. And so each name is special. And some are a little bit different, but that's really cool. And my first name, you guys know my name is Mrs. Garcia because that's what you call me at school. But my name is very different too, my first name. But I'm not going to tell you what it is. But it's very different, just like chrysanthemums. So I think maybe I'll have a little kind of a contest later, and we'll see if you guys can guess it, okay? But for today, I hope you enjoyed the story. Make sure that you all love each other and are be kind to each other no matter what your name is, because I think it's really cool to learn everybody's names and to learn how special each of us is, because that's what makes us so special and unique is our names. That's the first thing that makes us special. So you guys have a great day, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.